Okay, so welcome to another episode, everyone. College and Career Pathways, where every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m., we are providing you with information on various colleges and universities, financial aid resources, technical schools training programs, employment opportunities, skilled trade professions, career exploration, and career readiness skills, all designed to help you make the best career decisions possible. I'm Tony Cureton, your host, and today we have MI Student Aid with us, and they're going to be talking about Financial Aid 101, the ins and out of filling out your FAFSA application. Charles, welcome back. We are so glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. And I'm excited to be with you all. And I have a lot of great information to share with you all. So I hope you're ready to learn. And if you want, I can go ahead and get started. Miss
Absolutely, Charles.
Sweet. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. Again, my name is Charles Rozier. I'm an outreach representative with Michigan Student Aid, and we administer all of the scholarship and grant programs available for students pretty much within the state of Michigan. And today we're going to be discussing a couple of different topics. So I'll discuss with you all institutions to consider. We'll look at 2-year versus 4-year, public versus private, types of financial aid. So where does the money come from? The different categories within the topic of financial aid. FAFSA, free application for federal student aid, which is the primary application you all need to be completing in order to be considered for scholarships and grants. And then we'll go over some of the federal and state aid programs that you all may automatically be considered for by completing that FAFSA, as well as some other scholarship information, how to tap into local scholarship opportunities, and how to sign up for a student portal account if you wanted to be in the know about your eligibility around state aid programs. So that's the MISSG student portal. And then at the end, we'll have some time for questions if you all have any questions for me. So again, thanks for joining. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So what institutions are you all considering? So your first option is going to be your community colleges. And community colleges generally offer 2-year programs. So they offer 2-year associate degrees, certificate programs, licensing programs. If you all were interested in any trade, skilled trades, a lot of those trades are offered at many of our community colleges throughout the state of Michigan. But the average cost of attendance at a 2-year school is just under $12,000 per academic year. The cost of attendance is not simply tuition and fees. That also incorporates room and board. So your cost of living, if you wanted to have an off-campus apartment, the cost of food, cooking, buying groceries, all of that good stuff, books and supplies, transportation costs, all of those costs are incorporated into the cost of attendance. So don't be discouraged by that amount. Know that the actual tuition and fee cost at a 2-year school is about half of that number per academic year. Next, we have public colleges and universities. So these schools primarily offer 4-year programs. They will have a few associate degree programs offered. There's only like 4 or 5 public colleges in Michigan that actually offer associate degrees, but they primarily focus on bachelor and graduate degree programs. And the average cost of attendance is just under $24,000 per year. But again, that is incorporated if you all wanted to live on campus, stay in the dorms, have a meal plan, parking pass, all of that good stuff. So the tuition cost will actually probably be anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000 a year at your public colleges. And then lastly, we have private colleges and universities. So this is going to be your most expensive option. The average cost of attendance at your private colleges and universities is just under $40,000 per academic school year. And that can actually range anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 in an academic year. So for example, just a school in the Detroit area, UD Mercy, I believe, is around 45 to 50 grand a year. And then you got Lawrence Tech, that's another private school in the Metro Detroit area. Creative, the College for Creative Studies, downtown Detroit. So you do have a couple of private college options right in the Metro Detroit area. Alrighty, so sources of financial aid. Where does the money actually come from? So you have the federal government, state government, which my office represents, Michigan Student Aid. The colleges and the universities that you all are interested in attending, they all have scholarship and grant opportunities for students who are interested in attending their institution in particular. And then lastly, we have private and third party options. So these are going to be your local opportunities, such as opportunities available through community foundations, local associations, local employers, churches, unions, things of that nature. The more involved you are in your community, the more likely you might be able to come across some of those local opportunities, but I will share a resource where you all can search for place-based or local scholarship opportunities later in today's presentation. So types of financial aid. We like to break financial aid up into 3 different categories, 4 different types. So your first category is going to be your free money, and free money consists of scholarships and grants, and grants are merit-based. They can also be need-based, but they're primarily merit-based for sure. They'll have some merit component to a scholarship, and that means that you may have to write an essay, you may have to have a particular GPA score, particular SAT score, something of that nature. It's just based off academic achievement. Grants, on the other hand, are need-based, strictly need-based. It doesn't take into consideration academic achievement. Pretty much, if you are eligible for some money to help pay for college based off need, then you may qualify for grants. Earn money. So if you all plan on enrolling in college and you plan on working while you're enrolled in college, I highly recommend that you all sign up to be considered for a federal work study. And the federal work study program is a federal program. When you all complete your FAFSA free application for federal student aid, it'll ask you, would you like to be considered for a work study? So you would just select yes, and pretty much it provides you part-time employment to help with your college expenses. And I'll be going into a little bit more detail about work study later in today's presentation. And then lastly, we have borrowed money. And under the category of borrowed money, we have our loans. So loans are included as a part of the financial aid award. They must be repaid with interest though. So we never basically promote taking out loans or not taking out loans, but do know that most students have to take out loans in order to earn their 4-year degree. The average Michigan graduate has about $30,000 in student loan debt. Yeah. All righty. So free application for federal student aid, more commonly referred to as the FAFSA. So you would want to go to FAFSA.gov in order to complete the application. And this is what that homepage looks like. If this was your first time accessing financial aid, you would want to go to new to the FAFSA process. Once you have completed your FAFSA, let's say if you are completing your FAFSA for your sophomore year in college, you would then just go to returning user and log in utilizing your FSA ID. Now, I haven't shared information on FSA ID. That is the federal student aid ID. You all will need to create a federal student aid ID in order to be able to complete the FAFSA online. So that ID is simply a username and a password that will allow you to sign electronically the application and submit it online. And it also allows you to bring in some of your financial information automatically from the IRS website. So you will need your social security number. It is linked to your social security number. So you can only create one FSA ID. Therefore, once you have created your FSA ID, you want to hold on to it and put it in a safe space to where you can keep track of it over the time of you being in college. Alrighty. So some general information in regards to FAFSA. It can be completed online. Again, that is FAFSA.gov. You want to go to FAFSA.gov in order to get started. But there is also a mobile application. So if you all wanted to do it, directly from your phone, if you were under Wi-Fi, or maybe didn't have internet access, was under Wi-Fi or something like that, you could utilize the mobile application. So you would just go to the app store on your phone and download the My Student Aid app. Now it is MY as in your, not MI like the state of Michigan, but the My Student Aid app. All right. You want to avoid being scammed. The FAFSA is completely free. So make sure you're not going to a .org or a .com or a .net. It is FAFSA.gov. It's a government website. If you land on a website that's prompting you to put in any type of debit card, credit card information, then you know you're on the wrong site. The FAFSA must also be completed every year. In each year you plan on enrolling in college, make sure you have a FAFSA associated with that. And then state of Michigan deadline for MCS and MTG is March 1st, which was extended to May 1st for this upcoming academic year. So for the 2021-22 academic year, students had until May 1st in order to get their FAFSA submitted in order to be considered for the Michigan Competitive Scholarship and the Michigan Tuition Grant. For all of our other scholarships and grants, there is no priority consideration deadline. Students must just have a current year FAFSA on file, but to be considered for those programs in particular, you will need to get the FAFSA submitted by March 1st every year. The FAFSA for this upcoming academic year is already available. It became available last October of 2020, and that is for class of 2021 and older. And then the FAFSA for the 2022-23 academic year will become available this upcoming October of 2021, and that'll be for current juniors and older. So when you all submit the FAFSA, it will generate what is known as the expected or estimated family contribution, more commonly referred to as the EFC. And after your FAFSA is processed, you will receive a notification of your EFC. And the EFC is utilized to determine the types of financial aid a student may be eligible for. So it's not the amount of money that you or your family would be responsible for paying upfront to a college or university, but they do utilize that number in calculating the amount of need-based financial aid you may potentially qualify for. So that formula is the cost of attendance, which we know can vary from college to college, minus the expected family contribution equals the student's financial need at that institution in particular. So some variables that might impact the EFC would be income, family size, or the number of people currently living in the same household, the number of people enrolled in college at the same time that's all living in the same household, the amount paid in taxes, and any other assets that are owned by the family. And then most students will be considered a dependent student for the purposes of the FAFSA, meaning that a student would have to utilize their parents' financial information on the application. But in order for a student to be considered an independent student, the student would need to fall into one of the following categories. So that's pretty much 24 years of age, if you're married, if you're a graduate student, if you're a veteran, if you're a member of the armed forces. Most importantly, or more importantly, more likely to fall into these categories, if you've ever experienced time in foster care, that's going to be a primary reason why students may be able to be considered as independent. If you had dependents of your own, if you were an emancipated minor, so legally you were an adult, or if you were homeless or at risk of being homeless, and you could also be considered independent as determined by a financial aid administrator due to unusual circumstances, okay? So students also have the ability to be considered for a professional judgment if they have special circumstances. And special circumstances may allow a student's financial aid award package to be reevaluated, all right? So you would want to inquire with the financial aid office at the college that you're interested in enrolling at, but pretty much a financial aid officer or administrator would have the ability to look over all of your financial information and reconsider you for scholarships and grants based off of your current financial information if that looks differently than what you provided on the FAFSA. So Circumstances may include change in income or household size, or dependency override due to family breakdown, abuse, neglect, homelessness. So if you're not living with your parents, custodial parents, if there's housing insecurity, you're experiencing evictions, anything of that nature, not working heat or water, any of that, that will all allow you to be considered for a dependency override. And then also we know that for the 21-22 academic year, you're going to be utilizing the 2019 tax return. If your parents' financial information looked at drastically different in 2019 than what it looks like currently, that may be another situation where you will want to reach out to the financial aid office. Alrighty. So which parents' information should you all be utilizing on the FAFSA? And it's pretty much whichever parent has custody of you. So if your parents are married, you would want to use both parents' information. If they were not married, if they were divorced or separated, you would use whichever parent takes care of you, has custody of you, or you're living with for the majority of the year. And if your parent that you are living with remarries to a step parent, you would want to utilize that parent and the step parent's information. Never married, not living together, again, that's whoever you're living with. And if your parents are living together, even if they're not married, you want to use both of their information. Alrighty. So now we're going to briefly go over some of the federal aid programs that students may automatically be considered for when they submit the FAFSA. Some of these you're going to want to go to the federalstudentaid.gov website to find out more information about. But the federal Pell Grant is the largest grant-funded program available through the federal government. So if a student demonstrates the need for money, they may qualify for the federal Pell Grant, automatically considered for this when you submit the FAFSA. Also, the FSCOG is a grant that is very similar to Pell. Most students who are eligible for Pell may also qualify for FSCOG. Work study, again, this is a program if you all wanted to work part-time to earn money while in college. The Teach Grant, if you're interested in education, you want to go to federalstudentaid.gov to find out more info on that program. Iraq and Afghanistan Service Grant, same situation. You want to go to the website to find out more information. The federal direct subsidized and unsubsidized loan programs, these are going to automatically be considered for as well when you submit the FAFSA. You do have the option to accept or decline those loans though. So you're not automatically taking them out by completing the FAFSA. And then lastly, you have the Direct Plus loan, which requires a separate application outside of the FAFSA. But I'll be going into more detail about the Pell and the unsubsidized, subsidized, and plus loan programs. Just want you all to know that the federal grant aid does not have to be repaid, but any federal loans must be repaid and most times must be repaid with interest. So some basic information about the federal Pell Grant program. To be considered for the Pell Grant, students must complete the FAFSA free application for federal student aid. And again, you need to complete the FAFSA each and every academic year that you want to be considered for financial aid and you plan on enrolling in college. If you're coming from a family that is grossing $26,000 or less on an annual basis, you're going to automatically receive a zero expected family contribution, which means that the college-bound student will be eligible for the maximum amount of federal Pell Grant funding. And for this current academic year, the maximum Pell Grant is $6,345. For the upcoming academic year, 2021-2022, the Pell Grant award went up, I think, about $150. So students could get up to $6,495 per academic year through the Pell Grant program. Alrighty, so federal work study, I've already kind of hammered this home a couple of times, but I do want to just provide a little bit more insight as to why it could be beneficial. So if you plan on working part-time, I highly recommend that you work on campus versus working off campus, just because it's going to be more conducive to your success. Your employer is going to know that your primary purpose for being there is to get your education. So they're going to be a lot more likely to work with you around schedule changes and just things of that nature if you need a last minute call off or something of that nature to be successful in college. Versus if you were working off campus and you needed to call off last minute, do a schedule change, shift change, your supervisor might not be as understanding because they have nothing to do with your education. Also, a lot of the opportunities, they may actually be associated with the department that you're studying in. So maybe you're getting a finance degree and maybe you can find a on-campus job that's in the finance department. So it may actually benefit the degree that you're studying and things of that nature. Federal student loans, subsidized versus unsubsidized loan. The subsidized loan is for undergraduates who have or demonstrate financial need. And the college is going to determine the amount that can be borrowed, but it cannot exceed what your financial need is. And recall that your financial need is calculated by taking the cost of attendance at a college in particular, minus your expected family contribution, which will remain constant regardless of the college that you decide to attend, equals your financial need. So of course, your financial need could vary depending on the college that you're attending. Obviously, the amount that you could be awarded through the subsidized loan program might also vary depending on the college that you're attending. And then the best thing about the subsidized loan is that the government is actually going to be paying the interest on the loan while you are enrolled at least half time. So that is 6 credit hours, on average about 2 classes per semester during your grace period, which is an additional 6 months after you graduate, and also during a period of deferment. Alrighty, so the unsubsidized loan program, this is available to undergraduate and graduate students, regardless of if that student demonstrates financial need or not. The college is still going to determine the amount that you can borrow, and it will be based off the cost of attendance and other financial need factors, such as the gift aid that a student may be receiving. So that could impact the amount that you may be able to receive. But the most important thing to take away is that the student is responsible for all interest during all periods. So as soon as that loan gets dispersed to the student account, you will from then, that loan will then begin to accrue interest and you will be responsible for paying that back. Now, you don't have to start paying back on the interest while you're still enrolled in college, but as soon as you drop below halftime or 6 months after you graduate, you will have to start paying that back. You do have the option to start paying it back if you would like, though. So it's good to know that as well. And then lastly, we have the PLUS loan. So the PLUS loan is available for undergraduate and graduate students. If you are an undergraduate student, the parent is going to be the co-signer and the loan will be in the parent's name. So that is known as a parent PLUS loan. Graduate students is known as a graduate PLUS loan. So just some factors to consider when taking out a loan. You don't want your monthly loan payments to be more than 10% of what you're bringing home on a monthly basis during your first year out of college. And another simplified way of saying that is that your total loan debt should not exceed the projected first year post-graduation annual salary. So if I plan on becoming an accountant and I get my accounting degree, I'm thinking I can make $55,000 in a year, my first year out of college, then I should take out no more than 55 grand in order to earn my accounting degree. Just a rule of thumb. And then lastly, you have loan repayment and forgiveness options. The public service loan forgiveness program, if you plan on working for the government, whether it be federal, state, local, tribal, or even working for a nonprofit that primarily services the public, you could potentially sign up for this program. Pretty much you would make 120 qualifying payments. So you make 10 years worth of qualifying payments and the government will potentially forgive the remainder of your student loan debt at the end of that 10-year period. Now, the management of that program has had some skepticism. So pretty much there's only been less than 10 people who's actually had their loans forgiven through this program. So I'm not sure how much I will bank on that, but just know that it is available, it exists. Teacher loan forgiveness, if you plan on being an educator, you work in a school district that has 33% or more free or reduced lunch for 5 years, you make 5 years worth of qualifying payments, you could potentially have up to $17,500 of your student loan debt forgiven. And then income-driven loan repayment simply allows you to pay back your student loans based off the amount of money you're bringing in, regardless of the amount of student loan debt that you took out. Alrighty, so now we're finally getting to the fun part. I'm going to talk about some of the scholarship and grant programs available through our office here at Student Scholarships, Grants, and Outreach, or Michigan Student Aid. So for this current academic year, we were appropriated $140 million for 7 state financial aid programs. All of these programs are only applicable for undergraduate students, meaning that you have to be working on your first bachelor's degree. And most of our programs are need-based, meaning you need to demonstrate the need for the money to help pay for college. But you all can find full program details, eligibility requirements, and fact sheets associated with all of our programs by visiting our website, which is michigan.gov/MI student aid. Alrighty, so I'm not going to go into full detail on all of these programs, but I will provide you all with a quick synopsis of what it is about. So the Children of Veterans Tuition Grant pretty much is a program for students whose parents were killed or permanently and totally disabled during military duty. If you fall into that category, you could potentially qualify for CBTG. There is a separate application available in the MISSG student portal account that is required outside of the FAFSA alone. You also have the Foster and Future Scholarship. If you've ever experienced time in foster care on or after age 13, you may qualify for that program. This also requires a separate application, and the application period runs from March 15th through June 30th of each year for the upcoming academic year. So if you were interested in seeing if you may qualify for that program, you would want to get your application completed now before June 30th. And again, that is available on our website as well as in the MySSG student portal account. And then Michigan Competitive Scholarship, 1,200 or higher on the SAT and demonstrate financial need, you may qualify for that program. Michigan Tuition Grant, no merit portion considered. All you have to do is be interested in going to a private or an independent college here in Michigan and demonstrate financial need, and you could potentially get up to $2,400 per academic year through the MTG program. Police officer and firefighter survivor tuition grant, if your spouse or parents were killed in the line of active duty as a police officer or firefighter, you could potentially qualify to get your tuition waived at a college here in Michigan. And then lastly, we have Michigan's largest grant-funded program known as Tuition Incentive Program, more commonly referred to as TIP. I'm going to be going into full details on TIP here shortly. I just want to briefly share with you all the eligibility requirements for any and all of our state financial aid programs. So you will have to be a Michigan resident for at least 1 year. You'll need to have U.S. citizenship, permanent residency, or approved refugee status. You have to complete the FAFSA every year. You only can utilize our scholarships at approved colleges here in Michigan. You must be enrolled at least half-time, which is again 2 classes per semester on average, 6 credit hours. You cannot be in default on a federal loan. So if this is your first time accessing financial aid, you wouldn't have to worry about that. And you must graduate with your high school diploma, a certificate of completion, or its recognized equivalent. So even if it was a GED or whatever, as long as you graduate from high school, you do have to graduate prior to age 20 though. So that is something important to make note of. If you don't earn it until you have turned 20, that would disqualify you for many of the programs that I spoke to today. And then also, once you all begin to access financial aid, you have to maintain what is known as satisfactory academic progress, which are some academic standards. Pretty much, you would have to maintain a 2.0 GPA, pass 2/3 of the classes that you sign up for, and be moving towards graduation within a certain time frame. All right. So the FAFSA deadline again for MCS and MTG is March 1st. That was extended to May 1st for this academic year, or for the upcoming academic year, I should say. But for any of our other state aid programs, such as Foster and Future Scholarship, the Tuition Incentive Program, Children of Veterans Tuition Grant, Police Officer and Firefighter Survivor Tuition Grant, all a student will need to do is make sure they have a FAFSA on file for the current year they plan on enrolling in college. There's no deadline associated with that. Another important thing to note is that the college order on your FAFSA does matter. We only consider student eligibility and make awards at the first college listed on a student's FAFSA. All right, so you can update that either by updating your FAFSA, creating a MySSG student portal account and selecting the college you plan on attending, or contacting our customer care center, and that number is 1-888-447-2687. And that call center operates Monday through Friday from 8 to about 4:45 p.m. Alrighty, so the tuition incentive program, I'm going to provide some full details on eligibility requirements. So in order for a student to qualify for TIP, they would need to have had Medicaid for at least 24 months within a 36-month consecutive time frame between age 9 and high school graduation, as determined by DHHS. There is no special application associated with the TIP program as of class of 2020. So that's a great hassle that students no longer have to worry about. All they need to do is submit the FAFSA. They do have to graduate from high school prior to age 20 though. So that's important to make note of again. And then you need to begin utilizing your TIP scholarship eligibility within 4 years of graduating from high school. So even if you plan on taking a gap semester, a gap year, do know that you still have access to the tuition incentive program, and that can help you pay for your college expenses. Once you are enrolled in college and TIP makes that first payment to the college you're at, you'll have a total of
Oh, he froze.
Oh, am I froze?
Not anymore.
Okay. Oh, okay. It's saying my internet connection is unstable. But have you all been following everything? Did you get everything from this page?
Yes.
Okay, great. Alrighty. So TIP does work in 2 phases. Phase 1 is for a certificate or associate degree program. So if you were interested in going to a Michigan community college, it'll cover $250 in mandatory fees per semester and the cost of tuition at the standard in district rate. All right. So long as you go to a community college that is within district, then you could potentially get your full tuition covered. If you wanted to go to a independent college, it covers the cost of tuition at the average community college in district rate, which is $116 for the current academic year. Again, that varies year to year depending on what the average rate is across all community colleges in Michigan at your private schools. And then lastly, if you wanted to go to a public university that offered a 2-year associate degree, it'll cover the lower level resident rate, which is typically what they charge incoming freshmen and returning sophomore. But I can tell you there are only 4 colleges in Michigan that has associate degrees that are public universities, and those schools happen to be Ferris State University, Lake Superior State University, Northern Michigan University, and Michigan Technological University. Again, a student must be enrolled in a certificate or associate degree program and taking classes within that program of study in order for a student to qualify for phase 1 TIP. The certification program must be a minimum of 1 year, which we consider to be at least 30 weeks of instructional time for the purposes of accessing TIP. All righty, now phase 2 is a lot more straightforward. Pretty much that'll provide $500 per semester or $400 per term, up to a maximum of $2,000 across the junior and senior year, while earning credits for a 4-year program at a Michigan degree granting college or university. So pretty straightforward, $2,000 across the junior and senior year, but you must complete phase 2 within 2.5 years of completing phase 1 requirements. So you'll have a total of 2.5 years after you either earn 56 credit hours or you earn your associate degree to take advantage of phase 2. Alrighty, and now I briefly wanted to speak on my MISSG student portal account. So we do encourage students to create the student portal account by going to michigan.gov/MISSG. And to create an account, you will need your social security number, as well as either have a current year FAFSA on file or a TIP record, meaning that you already demonstrate eligibility for the tuition incentive program. What can students do in MISSG? You can access applications for any of our programs that require a separate application outside of the FAFSA. You can also receive important communications regarding your eligibility for scholarships and awards that you may qualify for. And you can update the college on file that we use to evaluate your eligibility and to process those awards. So again, if you had Wayne State listed as your first college on the FAFSA, but you're TIP eligible and you're actually going to be going to Wayne County Community College, you would want to create a portal account just to list Wayne County as the school that you plan on going to. because if we saw Wayne State listed first on that FAFSA, we're not going to make an award even though you're eligible for the scholarship because it's an ineligible institution. You can update your contact information and you can view eligibility status, payment status, and email us directly. So just lastly, briefly, I want to speak to some of the resources that we have on our website. We do have publications that speak to all of our programs, navigating the FAFSA. We have detailed program information regarding eligibility requirements, application periods, awards, all of that good stuff, eligible schools. We also link to additional FAFSA information. Students could send us DMs if they need a quick question answered. Again, we have that scholarship search tool, or I didn't speak to that, but I told you all that I was going to share a resource where you all can find local scholarship opportunities, often available through like your local community foundations, things of that nature. We actually have a scholarship search tool site, which you all can select the county you live in, and it'll bring up scholarships that are only applicable to students who live in a particular geographical area. And then also right from the website is where you all will sign up for the MISSG student portal account. And this is what the MISSG or the My Scholarship search tool looks like. So again, this is just where you will select the county you live in, and then it'll bring up a list of scholarships for students who live in that county. But that's pretty much the presentation. Again, I do want to encourage you all to connect with us at MI Student Aid on all of our social media platforms. We do have Twitter, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. So whichever is your domain, definitely feel free to check us out on social media. And with that, that is my presentation. So if you all have any questions, I am more than happy to answer those questions for you all before we get out of here.
Charles,
One quick question. If a student does work study, does that take away from the amount of student aid they would receive?
No, work study is actually considered to be a part of student aid. So it's not actually considered as income. It's considered as financial aid.
So let's say you were awarded a certain amount of student aid, and then you decided, you know, you just didn't have enough money, so then you decided to work as well. It would not lower your amount of student aid?
No.
Okay.
No, it would not.
Charles, I have a question regarding loans.
Okay.
So the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized is whether or not the government will cover a portion of the interest.
That is correct.
Okay, so then if you obtain a loan from a financial institution, a bank or credit union, are they automatically unsubsidized loans because they're going through the bank or the credit union?
Correct. Yes, those are not even considered to be subsidized or unsubsidized. Those are considered to be private loans.
Personal loans. Okay.
Personal loans. Yep. And they have completely different stipulations associated with those compared to federal student loans.
And so then if you utilize one of those loans, payment becomes due almost
immediately.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, good deal. Great presentation. You guys have any more questions? All right, then we will wrap this up. Charles, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Great information as usual. Thank you guys for joining. I know this was a great help to clearing up some questions you may have regarding to financial aid. Thanks so much, everybody, and you all have a great day.
All right, have a good one. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.